Hey guys, today is Tuesday, November 28th, and the final rounds of the Goodreads Choice Awards is now open, and I'm getting ready to pull up my Goodreads account and look at the selections and see if any of the books that I have chosen made it to the second round and put my votes in, and we'll see. I mean, maybe I've changed my mind. Maybe I've read a book that was on the list and I want to vote for that book instead of the book I voted for previously. I'm just kidding. I haven't read any more of the books that were on the Goodreads Choice Awards list. But I do want to see what books have made it to the next round. I want to see if there's any that I want to vote for and what categories that I'm going to keep voting in. Today is a very, very wintry, snowy day. I'm getting into the Christmas spirit. I've got on my holly jolly sweatshirt. There is all kinds of snow outside. I don't know if you can, probably can't see it because of the light, but there is snow built up in this windowsill right here. Oh, but it is really cold and I am more than happy to be in my warm house filming this video for you guys. So without further ado, let's pull up the Goodreads Choice Awards. Okay.
Hey guys, so the final round of Goodreads has arrived and they narrowed down the field. I haven't looked yet. I wanted to just react to if any of the books that I voted for made it and see if possibly I picked yet again some of the winners for these categories that I read any books in. After this, we then have, I think, the winners announced. I want to say the final round lasts like a week. Winners announced December 7th, which is next week. So the first category, just like last time, is fiction. So let's see. I picked The Wishing Game by Meg Schaefer. And The Wishing Game did make the final cut. And what's also funny is the TBR read that we were supposed to do a vlog for that we end up we're not doing. I did start it last night and it's also on the list. I'm going to end up showing it when I do, I think, the recap for November. It's going to be a pretty quick read, I think. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to read much this week because I've been working a lot. But it is also on the list. And I'm liking it so far as a chance. It could be better than The Wishing Game for me. But I really love The Wishing Game. So I'm going to stick with voting for The Wishing Game.
As of Tuesday, November 28th, the final round voting ends in 5 days. And so far, there have been over 3 million votes cast, which I was kind of expecting there to be a little more, especially since, like, within the first day of voting in the first round, there were over 1 million votes cast. So I'm not sure why. I feel like it's tapering down. I don't know. I mean, 3 million votes is a lot, don't get me wrong, but I just was thinking there might be more. Hold on a second. I think it might be time you guys get introduced to the newest member of our happy family, and it is Smoochie. This is Smoochie. I call her Smoochie Mooch, but she's a little Frenchie, and I have adored Frenchies for years, but I'm really not the type of person that's gonna go and spend a lot of money on a dog. I get most of my dogs, either I find them or people are giving them up and I take them in so they don't have to go to the pound, or I go to the pound and I pick out a dog. But Smoochie was a special case because her mother, the mother dog that had the litter that she was in, had 6 puppies and passed away from complications like a week after the puppies were born. So the owner of the dogs had all these puppies she was trying to bottle feed, and if you've ever tried to take care of a little puppy that is reliant on its mom for food and stuff, it's a lot. It's like kind of like a baby. Like, you have to get up every couple of hours to feed it. You got to keep them warm. You got to keep playing with them to keep them active. So it's a lot of work, and she was struggling to take care of all these puppies, and so she said, you know what, if you want her, come and get her. And help me with these dogs. So I went and picked up my Smoochie, and this is her. She's just so cute. So please do not mind any little puppy smoochy noises in the background. So first, best fiction. So right off the rip, I see The Wishing Game made the final cut, and of course I'm voting for that one because that was just my favorite. It is the only one that I have read on this list, but I don't think any of these in my mind is going to beat The Wishing Game. Even if I had read them, because I just loved The Wishing Game so much, and I'm just not a real big, just general fiction reader. So, voting for The Wishing Game on that one. I hope that wins. I really do. I hope I at least pick at least one of the winners. That would be fun. I don't think I ever have in the past.
Historical fiction is the next one, and I had read, I'm forgetting the full title, but I know Flora Lee. It was something like The Secret of Flora Lee or something like that. I forget what it is. Did not make the list. A couple that I wanted to read are on the list, but I'm not going to vote unless I have read the book. I just think it makes more sense to do it if I have read the book. So I am not going to be voting in historical fiction.
All right, best historical fiction. None of these have I read, so I am going to just skip to the next section. So I don't think I voted in best historical fiction previously because, again, that's also just not a category or genre that I'm really invested in reading at the moment. You know, people's reading tastes change. I mean, you tend to gravitate towards certain books at a certain point in time, and then maybe like you'll read a really good book out of your genre, and then you want to explore more of another genre, and then you know, you go through eras where like people will say, oh, I'm in my fantasy era, or I'm in my romance era. You can read seasonally, so I mean, never say never, but just not a category that I generally read a lot in, so not surprised I haven't read any of those.
All right, the next one is mystery thriller. I had debated a lot on what to vote for. I ended up voting for my first Riley Sager book, The Only One Left. So I wonder if it made it. First one on there. So The Housemaid's Secret, Frida McFadden made it on there. I really want to read Lisa Jewell's None of This Is True. I did read I Have Some Questions for You. It did make the list. I just didn't feel like that was the best mystery that I read this year. And I didn't read any of the others. So I'm going to go ahead and vote again for The Only One Left.
The next category is mystery and thriller. Okay, so my girl Frida McFadden made it into the finals with The Housemaid's Secret. Ooh, Riley Sager also made it in with The Only One Left. I'm gonna have to vote for that one. I know I voted for him in the initial round, and I'm sticking with that vote for the final round. I do love me some Frida McFadden, but Riley Sager's The Only One Left is getting my vote in best mystery and thriller.
And I clicked over to best romance, and the one that I had voted for, which I had a feeling was going to end up being, I think it's gonna win. And it's Happy Place by Emily Henry. I am going to vote for that one.
The next category is best romance. So again, I don't think I voted in the best romance category previously. It's just a genre that I'm not really that interested in reading at the moment. I do notice and recognize a lot of these books, a lot of the authors in this book. I know there's been really good reviews for Ashley Poston's The 7-Year Slip. Ali Hazelwood is always a good one. I actually have Lauren Asher's trilogy. The last book is on this, called The Final Offer. I actually have that as to read. I'm kind of interested in possibly reading that book, but it's just really far down on my list because, again, I'm not really into the romance.
Best romantasy is the next one. I would be shocked if Fourth Wing wasn't on here. And it is, obviously, it is the only romantasy I have voted. It's good to see that Assistant to the Villain made it on there. I know that's very popular right now. Hurricane Wars made it onto the final list, so I'm still thinking that might be one that I want to read. I don't know if Amanda still wants to read that one, but all of the books on here I've heard many things about. So romantasy is a huge category, but I am voting for Fourth Wing.
Now, best romantasy. I am, of course, a little bit into the romantasy because I do love fantasy books. Fourth Wing is in here. Assistant to the Villain, which I just thought was so fun and cute. I loved Assistant to the Villain. Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Miscalco. I purchased that book on Black Friday from Walmart for $14. I am trying to read the young adult trilogy that takes place in that world before I get to the Throne of the Fallen, so I will be getting to that book possibly by the end of the year. More probable though in beginning of next year. Zodiac Academy I know is very popular, but I have not read. The Hurricane Wars I've heard is gaining a lot of popularity. I have not read. So of the two books on this category that I have read, Fourth Wing and Assistant to the Villain, I am going to have to vote for Fourth Wing. If you guys haven't read that book, I'm sure you probably have, but I just most recently filmed a reading vlog reading Iron Flame, which is the second book in the Empyrean series. There's going to be 5 books total, at least for right now. It's at 5 books. And I just love those books. These books just live rent-free in my head. I just love the world. I love the characters. I love Xaden. I think he, especially after reading Iron Flame, he just has proven himself to Violet over and over and over again in so many different ways, and I just adore him and think that he is just the best person for her. And it's so cute how he's so protective as well. Like, I know she gets annoyed with it sometimes, but he is so protective, and I think that's a little endearing. Although I did love Assistant to the Villain, I am definitely voting for Fourth Wing.
The best fantasy, I didn't vote the first time because I did not read anything in it. I'm pretty sure, I thought Amanda read something in this category. I could be remembering wrong. She was a big fan of Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House, but the one on here is Hellbent. I think she read like older fantasy, so none of these are the ones she read either, but I will not be voting.
The next category is just fantasy, straight up fantasy. And I had not read any of the straight up fantasy books. Hellbent is on here, and I believe if I had read Hellbent, I would vote for it. I did read Ninth House in the month of October. So Hellbent is definitely on my to-read list. I'm going to be reading it very soon, but I have not read it yet. Starling House, I'm actually in the middle of reading right now, so I might not have lied in the beginning. I am reading a book that is on this list, but I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's just okay for me, to be honest with you. I contemplated DNFing it, but I am still very curious to see how this book ends, so I am gonna finish reading it, although there's some like quirky things in it that I'm not a real big fan of. I am gonna finish reading it, but Starling House is on here, which I know is popular. Cassandra Clare's adult fantasy book is popular. I started reading that, but kind of DNF'd it because it seems very similar to another book that I have read, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not going to talk more about it, but I just wanted to read other things before that one. So I'm just going to skip this category and not vote just because I haven't read the books on this list. The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab might also, if I have read that book, might be up there. I have read A Darker Shade of Magic, which is the first book in the trilogy that is sort of like tied to the Fragile Threads of Power, but I haven't read books 2 and 3, so I haven't read Fragile Threads of Power yet. I do hope to get to that maybe sometime next year, but just moving on to the next category.
So science fiction is the next category. I had read In the Land of, and I'm forgetting the name. In the Land of Honey. I can't remember the name of it. It did not make the list, so I'm not going to be voting in that category. There are a couple on there that look very interesting, and the ones I wanted to read seem to be on here. The Light Pirate was one of them, The Marriage Act by John Mars, but I have not read them yet, so I'm not voting in this category.
The next category is Best Science Fiction, and I can't believe that Starter Villain by John Scalise is made the final round. This was one of my most anticipated. I have not read it yet, but you guys, the fact that it keeps making the rounds, and it just seems hilarious to me. The premise of this book seems so funny. I'm gonna read it. I want to read this book. I don't typically read funny comedy kind of books, but it's in science fiction, and it seems interesting, so I am probably going to read that book, but I have not read it yet. The Future by Naomi Alderman made it on the list. I DNF'd that book. It wasn't bad. I just quickly lost interest in it. The setting is really cool. I think I mentioned it in the previous Goodreads video that the setting feels kind of like Total Recall, the one with Colin Farrell. Yeah, I don't know, I guess. I'm just familiar with all these books, but I haven't actually read them, so I'm not gonna vote.
And of course, the controversial category that I was not very happy with is next, which is horror. And I really wanted Catriona Ward to be on there. Obviously, it's not going to suddenly be on the list of the final nominees. So I had ended up voting for Rouge, which was the only one I had actually read on the list, and it is there. So Rouge it is.
The next category is horror. I see that Rouge made it to the final round. I did vote for Rouge. I did vote for Rouge. Our Share of Night. Those are the two horror books from the first round that I have actually read, and they have made it to the final round. So in the first round, I voted for Rouge, but I just really didn't love that book. Between Rouge and Our Share of Night, again, I still feel like I should vote for Rouge, but I kind of want to see I'm curious to see who wins this. I mean, How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix is always popular. I mean, Stephen King is popular, of course. I do love the writing style of T. Kingfisher. Of course, the name is really cool too, but I haven't read A House with Good Bones yet. So I think honestly in the final round, I'm kind of happy to see the two books that I have read made it to the final round, but I just really didn't love either one of these stories. And although Rouge, so I guess I'll just vote for Rouge again. I don't know, because I kind of don't want it to win. I really don't know how it compares to these other books. So Rouge. I mean, should I vote for Rouge again or not? I mean, I kind of don't want the book to win, but of the two books in this category that I have read, it's the better of the two, at least that I enjoyed as far as reading goes. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to vote. I'm not going to vote because I feel like there are potentially better books on this list and I just have not read them. And I don't want to put my vote in for a book that I didn't love on the final round that I feel like maybe another book might be more deserving to be the winner. So I'm just going to skip this and not vote in Best Horror, even though the two books that I have read did make it to the final round.
Young adult fantasy and sci-fi. I think everyone knows that I love Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And I would be, again, shocked, just like Fourth Wing, if it was not on here. And it's on there. I really hope it wins. I have a good feeling it's going to win. There are a couple good books on this list, though. But I have a great feeling that Divine Rivals is going to win. I just have a good feeling about it.
The next category, Young Adult Fantasy and Science Fiction. Okay, so very popular books on here. I have seen at least one booktube channel talk about these books. I probably multiple times, probably multiple channels, multiple times. Of course, I'm gonna vote for Divine Rivals because I loved that book. I can't wait for Ruthless Vows. I already talked about it in the first round. It's the book I voted for. I truly hope this book wins this series. There's a lot of stiff competition in here. Powerless, I know, has been very, very popular. Chain of Thorns, Cassandra Clare is very popular. A Curse for True Love, I know, was a popular book that a lot of people just flew out and bought and read on release day. A Study in Drowning was on my most anticipated. So I'm sure there's really good books on here, but I do hope that Divine Rivals wins because I just enjoyed that book immensely. We did a whole reading vlog on it, and I can't wait to see who wins this category because I know the competition in this category is steep.
I did not read any young adult fiction. I did not vote in the first time. There's a couple on here, I think, that have a good chance of winning. Five Survived by Holly Jackson, I think, has been pretty popular. One of Us is Back by Karen McManus. I know that series has been very popular. And Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood. She's a very popular author, so I have a feeling one of those is going to win.
Right. Next category is young adult fiction. All right, so haven't read any books in young adult fiction. I am familiar with Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I did read the Inheritance Games trilogy. I read all 3 books. I'm just not continuing because I just kind of lost interest the further I read along the books. The first book I thought was very fun and interesting and cute, but then as the second book and third book went on and on, I just was kind of rushing to finish the book. I just didn't really care as much or didn't feel as invested, so I'm not continuing with the Brothers Hawthorne. But I do know that that was a very highly anticipated book. Holly Jackson is always popular. Five Survive is on here. She's the author of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Check and Mate by Allie Hazelwood was anticipated. Although I haven't heard a lot of really good reviews about Check and Mate. Most people are saying that it's actually not their favorite Allie Hazelwood book and not really enjoying it as much. But I do know Check and Mate was very highly anticipated by a lot of the young adult romance readers.
Debut novel is next, and I had voted for The Wishing Game. And it is on there, so I really hope she at least wins one of them. I love that book so much, and I feel it's worthy of winning. So hopefully she takes the vote for that one.
The next category is debut novel. So I have read 2 books that have made it to the final round. The Wishing Game and Inkblood Sister Scribe. And of course, I'm going to vote for The Wishing Game. I enjoyed The Wishing Game immensely. You guys know. I did read Inkblood Sister Scribe. I was lucky enough to get an ARC of that book, and I had no idea when I got the ARC that it was going to be so anticipated. But a lot of people had that on their to-read list and have read the book, and I thought it was okay. I didn't just love it or, you know, think about the book long after I read it or anything like that. I just thought it was okay, but out of the 2, The Wishing Game was by far my favorite book that I've read in this category.
Nonfiction is the next one. I did not read anything in the general nonfiction category, so I'm going to skip that.
Okay, so the next category is best nonfiction. Again, not a category I read a lot of, and I'm just not going to vote on this. I don't know enough about it. I have seen Doppelganger by Naomi Klein, probably the most of any book on this list, but I just am not familiar with any of these titles, what they're about, or, you know, the authors who would be the best, so I'm just going to skip that.
And the last category that I get to vote in is memoir and autobiography, and I see Brittany has made the list with The Woman in Me, so I am going to go ahead and vote.
Best memoir and autobiography. Oh yeah, my girl Britney Spears made the best memoirs and autobiography final round, so of course I'm voting for her. We did a whole reading vlog on that book if you want to know my opinions, but I'm definitely voting for that book. The next category is best history and biography. All right, so Bill O'Reilly on here, very popular, Killing Witches. The Wager, I've seen a lot of that book. I think that's like a Barnes & Noble selected book or something. The Elon Musk book is on here. Wow. I mean, how do they pick these? Because I know like Jen had said something about how they need like a certain rating in Goodreads, but when I was looking through some of the books that were picked last in the first round, they had like barely 4-star ratings. Some of them did. So I'm not sure how they choose these books, but a lot of these books I've not even heard about before, and I definitely haven't read any of these, so I'm just gonna skip on. The next section is Best Humor. And again, don't know much about this book, haven't read any of these books. The book that I commented about the cover, Sure, I'll Join Your Cult, that book showed up in the final round. So I just think that cover is hilarious. When you couple it with the title, I just think it's so funny. But I'm not voting in that round. So couldn't vote as many times in the final round. Didn't read as many of the books as obviously in the first round. But I do stand by the picks that I have selected. The Wishing Game I selected for 2 categories. I have no problem for that. I hope it wins both categories. I thought that book was so fun and cute. Meg Schaefer is coming out with another book next year, and I do have it on my most anticipated TBR list. So when we get to that most anticipated video, I'm not sure exactly what month it's coming out. I want to say April. Maybe May, but I will definitely be including that book by Meg Schaefer that's coming out in my most anticipated reads video. Whatever month that fits in will be in that video.
Officially voted in the final round of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and let's see what the winners are on December 7th. I can't wait to see if my picks made the winners. Until next time.